So I finally got to ride my new bike. This is a custom titanium frame that I had built according to a very specific geometry that's made only for me.
The trend over the past few years have definitely been longer bikes. People wanted that extra long reach for added stability at speeds and for going through all of the chunk, but I think we're seeing that trend start to slow down and even reverse a little bit. Ritchie Rude has always resisted that trend and has tended to size down. Jack Moir last year started to ride a smaller bike in the EWS, and recently Dangerous Dave just sized down for his style of riding.
Ritchie Rude, he's 182 centimeters tall, which is just below 6 feet. Typically, he would be on a large SB 150, but he's chosen to ride a medium.
My 2021 EWS race bike. It's a size large. This is on the small side for me. It's the small bike, so it just helps way more.
Something different for this year is I've chosen to ride a size small frame. Now I'm 5'9", about 155 pounds. Normally I ride a size medium.
One of the latest things I noticed was Seth from Berm Peak just made a custom bike and his reach is 409 millimeters. 409, that is short. And he says this is the first mountain bike he thinks he's owned that actually fits him.
This bike has a pretty short reach. It's kind of a trend to go for a longer reach right now. This has a 406 millimeter reach that's shorter than the reach on any of my bikes. No, this is actually the first hardtail I've ever ridden that actually fits me. And 2 days ago, I didn't know that. So if you deal with the right person who's gonna help you dial in the geometry, somebody who really knows what they're talking about, they're gonna get you on a bike that feels better than anything you have ever ridden in your entire life. And that's how I feel about this.
Recently, I came down from a 450 millimeter reach down to 435, which doesn't sound huge, but I really noticed the difference. The bike just seemed a little bit more maneuverable and it felt like I was riding the bike rather than the bike was riding me. A lot of people out there think that coming down to a bit of a shorter reach will really affect your stability on the trail. And I don't disagree with that. Having a super long bike when you're just plowing straight down a gnarly section does add that little bit of confidence, but I think with the modern geometry as far as head tube angle goes, you can get a fine mix where you don't need to overextend that reach and lose that maneuverability by getting that longer bike. With my 450 millimeter reach bike, I was running at about a 66 degree head angle. I'm now running about a 63, 64 degree head angle depending on what bike.
I'm gonna be running it in the slack position.
And I found no reduction in maneuverability with that reduced reach when I paired it with that slacker head tube angle. And as Seth said in his video, it's not all just about reach. All the measurements of the bike contribute to how it performs. When you're thinking about reach, you don't think about stack, wheelbase, all that other stuff. But when you're zeroing in on a bike, if you're not gonna go afford a custom titanium like Seth, you can really zero in and get something that fits you. That's why a lot of people like using RAD, which takes into account reach, stack, and cockpit setup to help zero in on that fit. For me, I like having a 10 to 20 millimeter RAD Plus bike. I find that that's a good combination of stability and maneuverability. And you can decide on what you like. Some people like RAD minus if you come from, say, a BMX background and really like to jump and flick around. If you want to go a little bit RAD Plus, you do get a little bit of extra stability. I think if you go way over your rad, you're starting to really lose the maneuverability of the bike. But it's up to you and your preference. Some people really do like a longer bike. But I think once you settle in on that rad number, you can use that for later bikes to help pick what fits. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because I found it really interesting that a guy with as much experience as Seth just discovered that he really likes a bike that's a little bit shorter than what he's been previously riding for quite a few years. And I think that really throws out the challenge for us to try bikes that are a little bit shorter than what the industry has pushed for. The industry needs to sell bikes, and by changing up their geo every year, it gives something for the consumer to strive for. And maybe they'll scale all the way up and then they're gonna start scaling back down. I know it's hard to try different size bikes, but if you have a chance, try a bike with a little bit less reach. Go for a few rides, and it does take a few rides to get that muscle memory locked in and see what it feels like. For me, it was a huge difference. I felt so much more in control and I felt so much more in the pocket of the bike. You might find that it makes a big difference. It really did for me. It sounds like it did for Seth. You might try it and find something really interesting. So there you go. I know a lot of people might disagree, and a lot of people do really like those longer bikes. And hey, up on the North Shore, I see guys on those longer bikes and they absolutely rip through stuff that I wouldn't even dare to ride. But then again, I look at a guy like Van Can, he just went down to a full 27.5 bike just to add that maneuverability. Anyway, enough talking. It's not raining, which is actually a bit weird here on the shore in January, so I'm gonna head up for a ride.